Hello, church. It's so good to be with you. And again, I just want to thank everybody for their feedback as it relates to Take Fives and the way it blesses you and helps you start your week in God's Word and kind of gives you a focal point for what to think about throughout the week. Just a couple of shout outs really quickly. We celebrated seniors yesterday as we celebrated 21 graduating seniors in our church from high school and college. Those are always great days in the life of the church as we help launch and be a part of this next generation moving forward, not only to advance the gospel, but also to be positive impacts in their community. I also want to thank the Southwest Florida Relief Team. They're on their way home today. And again, another just great job by that relief team and by Chris Rodriguez and her ministry in missions. So we're back in James chapter 1. We're going to pick it up in verse 16. And it says this: don't be deceived. It's almost like we could just stop right there, right? I mean, we live in a world of endless deception, do we not? I mean, whether it's political deception or corporate deception or deception from friends, for crying out loud, Facebook might be the greatest perpetrator of deception in the world, right? So he says, don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of heaven, heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He chose to give us birth through the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruits of all he created. This is a good word for us. And so apart from the deception word, so here's what I would say about deception. Previously, James talked about our desires and how our desires would lead us away, and that our desires would lead us into sin, and that sin would eventually lead us to death. Here's how I would connect those dots for us today. Desires are stronger than our discipline sometimes. I know that this is true in my own life. Periodically in the office, we celebrate our staff's birthdays with cake. And I would love to tell you that I'm disciplined enough not to eat the cake, but it's everybody's favorite cake, and somebody's gone to the trouble to make it, and somebody's gone to the trouble to pick it up, and it just feels like that's the right thing to do. It's the polite thing to do. In other words, I have zero discipline when we celebrate birthdays with cake at the office. The greatest amount of discipline I have is on Sunday mornings. I don't go out on the front porch because you know what's on the front porch? Donuts are on the front porch. So here's what I would say to you. Our desires are stronger than our discipline. And then this ends up leading to deception in all of us. So the worst kind of deception might be self-deception, right? So I don't get up in the morning and think that I'm 180 pounds. That would be self-deception. I'm keenly aware of my size. I'm keenly aware of my surroundings. And so what we also want to be aware of is where we are spiritually, that we would not deceive ourselves and be deceived by untruths in this world. I think it leads to a Matthew 7 kind of principle that says self-deception would allow us to believe that we're more spiritual than we are, we're more faithful than we are, more generous than we are. Self-deception is the person who puts a few dollars in the plate on Sunday and thinks they're tithing. That's self-deception. Right? So we know that there are a couple of places in the Bible that talks about it. In Galatians 6:7, it says, do not be deceived. God will not be mocked. You reap what you sow. In other words, you are who you are, and you are who you present yourself as in terms of the fruit of your life. You are who you are. Let me share a passage with you as well that comes from 1 John. It says this: whoever says I know him but does not do what he commands is a liar, and the truth is not in that person. This is self-deception. This is exactly what it looks like. But right at the end of this passage, James says this, that through the word of truth, we might be a kind of first fruits of all he created. So when we talk about first fruits, this is an old practice that's from the Old Testament, carries on in the New Testament. That is a principle for our tithe. At our church, we don't talk about offerings. We don't talk about gifts. We talk about first fruits. What are the first fruits? Because we are commanded by God to bring the very best of our lives and present that to him. So when James says that we are the kind of first fruits to this world, we are the best of the offering he has for the world. We're called to be a first fruit in this world. And in order to do that, we've got to be transparent. We've got to be honest about who we are. We've got to be willing to surrender who we are on the altar of God's grace. We have got to be able to come to the world being a representative of who Jesus is, a first fruit, the best of what he offers the kingdom. And so I would say to us today, it's impossible if you're living in self-deception. So the best way, James is going to speak about this again, probably here in about 5 or 6 weeks, about this concept of self-deception. But my comment to you today, my encouragement to you today, is that to stand in the mirror and ask God to make you self-aware of who you are, the places where you need him to pour extra grace in order for you to mature and be disciplined so that you do not give in to your desires, right? Discipline so you don't give in to your desires. All right, church, I hope this was helpful for you as we unpacked it together. I always look forward to being with you again next week, and I pray that you would find God meeting you every step of the week this week. Love you. Have a great day.